Bear with us 1 minute. All right, let's go ahead and call to order the January 24th, 2023 meeting of the Oakdale City Council. Will the clerk take the roll?
Councilmember Morcom?
Here.
Councilmember Ingridson?
Here.
Councilmember Olson?
Here.
Mayor Zabel?
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty. In front of us, first up on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. We were provided an amended copy, changing one of the consensus motions, I believe. That's the only thing, Chris?
No, Mr. Mayor, City Council, I would like to propose that we add under Administrator's Report, a proposed resolution for the local option sales tax for legislative action.
All right. Will somebody make a motion to approve the agenda as amended with those two changes?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any conversation? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, and the agenda is adopted. Next up on the agenda is the approval of minutes. First up, January 10th, 2023 workshop. Any changes or corrections? Hearing none, I'll look for a motion.
Motion?
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any conversation? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, and those are adopted. Next up, January 10th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. Any changes or corrections? Seeing none, I'll look for a motion.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any conversation? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and those are adopted as well. Next up on the agenda, we have two technically public hearings, I guess? Or is it one for each?
Two different ones.
Two public hearings or four? Do we have to have one for each? Two, okay. Public hearings are the opportunity, or actually a requirement under state law, that we provide an opportunity for members of the public to weigh in on that item being considered. We will start with a public hearing for ordering City Project R2023-01, the 2023 street improvements. But before that, do we have a staff presentation? Brian? All right, Mr. Bachmeyer, please take it away.
Good evening, Mayor and council members and residents that are in attendance this evening. There are two hearings this evening, and the first one will be the public improvement hearing, where we'll talk about the why, what, and when of a particular project. Then we'll move, after that is completed, we'll move into the assessment hearing. We'll talk about how the project is being financed. There will be two people joining me this evening during this presentation. Todd Blank, he's a principal at Short Elliott Hendrickson Consulting Engineering Services. They've done work in the city of Oakdale for probably close to 40 years. Not Todd himself, obviously, but the firm has done work for the city of Oakdale for 40-some years. Also joining me this evening during the assessment hearing is Jason Zimmerman is our finance director for the city of Oakdale, so he will assist in the discussion on the assessments. Before I kick off, I just want to make clear that there are 5 different neighborhoods that are affected by the 2023 project. And starting on the north end, on the top of the page, is 56th Street. That provides access to Mills Fleet Farm and Marcus Theater. Then moving to the south and east, a little bit to the center part of the community, we have High Point and 36th Street. That provides and abuts the Forefront development and the Springs of Willowbrook north of 36th Street. Moving to the next circle, just south of Stillwater Boulevard, we have streets that were constructed in 1995 as part of the Prairie Ridge addition, Upper 26th Street and Helmo Bay Avenue. Then moving to the next, to the south, 15th Street, Hydrum Avenue, 16th and 17th on Hydrum Court. That neighborhood is the Cardinal Meadows addition, and that was constructed again in the mid-1990s. And then in the very lower left corner is the 9th Gershwin and Glenbrook neighborhood. So those are the 5 different neighborhoods that we're going to be talking about this evening. Just again to reiterate, the first hearing will be the public improvement hearing where we'll address the why, what, and when. We'll describe the improvements. We'll have an opportunity to hear testimony from the neighbors. And then the council will have to deliberate and order the project. It does require a 4/5 vote of the council because it was a project that was initiated by the council. Once that's completed, then we will move into the assessment hearing where we'll discuss how the project is being financed. Again, another opportunity for the neighbors to testify before the council on their thoughts on the project financing. And then the council, again, will deliberate and adopt an assessment roll. I really want to start out with the objectives of our improvement. It's really fourfold this year. Our primary objective is we see our pavement program as a safety improvement. The condition of our pavements does have a direct correlation with the safety of our streets. For people that drive, walk, and ride bicycles on our streets, the more potholes and cracks there are, the less safe they are. Also, we want to address the streets that are increasing maintenance costs. So we also want to maintain maintenance expenditures in our community. And as a neighborhood street gets older, the costs are increasing at an accelerating rate. And patching is very inefficient and ineffective. When we start patching in an area, it becomes a very regular practice, and we have to come back year after year, very inefficient. The other thing we do with is both a safety and a cost measure is to upgrade our street lighting system to go with LED lighting where we currently have high-pressure sodium light fixtures. We're changing those out with LED lighting. They're more efficient and provide better lighting. The third objective with this year's project, which is somewhat unique from past years, is we want to improve the reliability of our water system down on Gershwin, 9th, and Glenbrook. And I'll show a map here in a little bit that shows how many water main breaks we've had down there. And I understand we had another one earlier this week at 7th and Glenbrook. So obviously it's an area where we have quite frequent water main breaks. The fourth and final objective is to avoid having to impose service barriers on our streets. We have to start restricting the load limits on our streets when they get old and brittle, and that could affect service delivery to properties. So when we reconstruct the streets, we obviously reconstruct them to accommodate the truck traffic, bus traffic, those kind of things that need to provide services to your properties. Being an engineer, I have to at least show one graph as part of my presentation. And what this reflects here along the bottom, you see the age of pavement starting at 0 on the left and going up to 40 years on the right. Going up the left part of the scale, you can see the pavement condition. A brand new street has a rating of 100, and on the bottom is 0. So as the street moves from right to left as far as age, you can see the line drops the pavement condition. Going on the right side is actually our maintenance costs. And so as you see over time, our maintenance costs increase. So there gets to be a point, and this is based on data that the City of Oakdale has collected at around 28 years of age. We reach a point of diminishing returns where we're spending a lot of money on maintenance and yet our pavement conditions are still depreciating or decreasing. So it comes to a point where we need to do something more than just patch the streets. I just wanted to share this map. This is a map that reflects the 9th and Gershwin and Glenbrook area. So on the left side is Trunk Highway 120. Here's 9th Street, Gershwin, and Glenbrook. And these circles with the lines through them are where we've recorded water main breaks. And there's been a number of them on 9th Street and on Gershwin Avenue. On Glenbrook Avenue, we had one this spring recorded, and now, as I mentioned, there was another one earlier down in this area more recently. There is also some anecdotal evidence that there's been other breaks along the street, just unfortunately they're not in our recording system. So I just want to indicate that we've had 9 to 12 breaks down in this area. The water mains were installed in 1963. They're cast iron, which is a very unforgiving material. If there's any shift in the ground, it breaks and shears, and we have a water main break, and that affects the reliability of the water system to your properties. This is a map that shows the pavement conditions in our community. We do keep track of the pavement throughout our community. We have about 93 miles of local streets. And the colors would indicate the scale here. The green and the blue are streets that are in good and adequate condition. And where you start seeing the purple and the pink and the red, those are streets that are trending towards the adequate to poor to very poor condition. And the next map I'll show is how we address these problem areas. So you can see the kind of the neighborhoods that we've got identified for next year are certainly in the areas that are poor to very poor condition, and that's why they're in our program for next year. There are other neighborhoods that do have some of those similar pavement conditions, but we do have a 5-year program to reconstruct those streets as well. And this is a map that shows the weight restrictions that we have to impose to protect and preserve our pavements in the spring of the year, generally from March until May. A lot of the neighborhoods that we're looking at reconstructing this coming year are already at 5-ton weight restrictions. And so it's important that we look at reconstructing those streets so that we can maintain service delivery to your property. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a 5-year program where we try to reconstruct anywhere from 2 to 3 miles of streets a year. And so if you take a look at that, we do have 90 miles of local streets. If we're doing 3 miles a year, that's indicating we're asking our roads to last 30 miles or 30 years before they get reconstructed. And so the streets that are in the program for next year are very close to that 25 to 30 year reconstruction cycle. Now our community wasn't developed uniformly, so we have some years where we have to do slightly more mileage and some years where we can do slightly less. But on average, we need to kind of target around 3 miles a year of reconstruction. Since 1992, we've had a reconstruction program, and you can see all the streets that have been resurfaced in Oakdale since 1992. I think it represents close to 90% of the streets have been resurfaced as part of our program. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Todd Blank, and he'll talk more about the project and process regarding this coming year's project.
Thank you, Brian. Mr. Mayor and members of the council, members of the public, we'll start out with some pictures of a past project. And so this is a typical city street that you're seeing that's approaching 30 years of age. And the pavement has severe cracks on it, and you can see some of that expensive patching that Public Works has had to do to keep that in place. There's a existing street light that doesn't meet current city standards there, but this is what these neighborhoods look like before the project. And this is that same area after the project. So this is what we're trying to accomplish with this project, is to replace the asphalt pavement in between the curb and gutters. And then you'll see that there are some curb repairs that have been done around some of the storm sewer structures, just to bring those up to current standards and a better condition. And the street lighting system has also been upgraded. So those are the standard residential street lights. And then next are some pictures of the project area for this year. So starting down by Tanner's Lake on Gershwin and Glenbrook. This is from 7th Street looking to the north, but you can see the condition of the streets. It's streets that have really achieved their design life. You can see all the patching that Public Works has had to do. There's overhead power down in this area, so the street lights are on those power poles. And then on the right is Glenbrook, and so there was one water main break right up where this picture was taken, and there was one up at the top of the hill, but that water main just really needs to be replaced. Upper 26th Street off of Helmo Avenue, you can see some newer pavement in the foreground, and then the pavement going up to Helmo that was originally done. So just signs of distress on the pavement, some patching Public Works has had to do. The curb and gutter is in relatively good shape. Helmo Avenue Bay on the other side of Helmo in this area, same type of situation. Pretty severe cracking. It's not something that we can just remove the top 2 inches of asphalt and put an overlay on. All those cracks would come right back through. Expensive patching, again, to keep it in service. And then down by 15th Street by Eagle Point School, Hydrome Avenue, same type of conditions. The curb is generally in pretty good shape. The pavement is really showing its age and condition. Hydrome Avenue Court, similar situation. There's a concrete cross gutter on that left picture, and you can see that the entire pavement has been patched at one time. And then 17th Street North in that same neighborhood. So then we'll go through the proposed improvements. There are 5 different areas, as Brian mentioned, and some of the areas have a little bit different character. So I'll go through this as simply as I can. But our main goal, again, is to replace that asphalt pavement. So the first area are the residential areas by 15th Street and off of Helmo Avenue. In those areas, we will be replacing all the asphalt pavement. Those areas have existing streetlights that meet standards, but they do not have LED fixtures, so those fixtures would be replaced. Before we replace that pavement section, we want to make sure that everything underground is up to standards and in good condition. So Public Works is televising the city sewers at this time, and there may be some spot repairs on the sanitary sewer. There may be some repairs on the storm sewer, some catch basins. Maybe we need to add a catch basin if there's a little bit of a drainage flooding problem in heavy rains. There might be some fire hydrant repairs and gate valve repairs. And then we will clean out the storm sewer system by the ponds. So the storm sewer pipes that dump into the ponds, there's some sediment that accumulates over time. So this is the best time to clean those areas out. We will review all the street signs in all of the project areas and replace those that need replacing. And then on Hydrome Avenue, just north of 15th at Cardinal Meadows, there is the entrance monument in the raised median. And this is our time to look at that and see if it still makes sense to have that in place. It was put in primarily for aesthetic reasons, and it's a little bit difficult to snowplow around there, and the streets are narrow. There's no parking in that area, so city staff has been engaging with the property owners and taking some surveys and just trying to get the best information to make a decision on whether now is the time to do that or not, and that is continuing. Down by Tanner's Lake on 9th Street, Gershwin and Glenbrook Avenue, the asphalt pavement and the concrete curb and gutter will totally be replaced. So that curb and gutter, like Brian said, it's 59 years old, and it's time to replace that. Plus, we're planning on replacing the entire water main system under that street, including the services out to the right-of-way, so the curb will be disturbed for that as well. So that entire water main system will be replaced, the main and services. That's a little bit time intensive, so it'll be more activity happening down in that area. And before that pavement is put back in, there's a little bit of different grading operation down there to put in some stronger sand and better drainable sand. This is a time to take a look at Glenbrook Avenue. Glenbrook Avenue, for some reason, is 40 feet wide, and the other 2 streets are 28 feet wide. So it's a chance to narrow that up a little bit. And also the intersection down at 7th Street, it doesn't line up with Glenbrook on the south side of 7th. So it's offset by about 15 feet, so it's a chance to perhaps, move that over and line those up for better safety and operations. And then because we are disturbing the area more intensely, there are some requirements to do some additional stormwater treatment. So we have to do a stormwater treatment pond down in that area. So that's the area where the improvements are going to take the longest and they're more involved. The two commercial areas, Forefront and up by 56th Street, up by Mills, those areas will be similar to the first residential areas. The curb and gutter will mostly stay in place. Some spot repairs, replace the pavement. The streetlights in those areas do not meet current standards, so they're proposed to be upgraded to the city's current standard for commercial streets. So different from the picture we saw, the standard on commercial streets are the taller 30-foot black aluminum poles with the decorative pendant type fixtures. On 36th Street, there's a temporary asphalt curb on the north side, so that will be removed and concrete curb and gutter put in on that north side. And that area also, I think at one time it was planned to maybe extend the median that you have at Ideal so that the existing street is quite wide on the west end of 36th where it matches the Willowbrook Helmo Avenue. And so we will be narrowing that street up to make a better transition to the new street. And then lastly, there is a new sidewalk proposed along the west side of High Point Drive down near County Road 14. So what can you expect to see during construction? Well, the first thing the contractor will do is to reclaim the pavement. So they'll bring in a big grinding machine, mix the existing asphalt pavement in with the gravel, and then they'll salvage that and use it on the project. Before that new asphalt gets put down, we need to take care of some grading, some utility repairs, some curb repairs, and then the street lighting system. So down in the water main replacement area, that grading, because we're disturbing the subgrade and that subgrade has never been improved in the past, the city standard is to put in 3 feet of good drainable sand because of the soils that exist in the city. So we are proposing to put in 3 feet of drainable sand down in that area. So the grading is more intensive. In the other areas, the grading will just consist of removing the top 3 to 4 inches of gravel for the new asphalt section. The city has utilities under the street, and there are also private utilities, the private gas, phone, and electric and communication lines. The city has their sanitary sewer, storm sewer, and water mains, so we will be making sure that those are all up to standards and in good condition. The curb will be totally replaced in the water main replacement area and on the north side of 36th Street. In the rest of the areas, we will replace just the areas that are so severely cracked or settled that it's really affecting the life of the street. So we're not after every cosmetic crack, but we're after the more major cracks, and so you'll see some of that replacement. And then there will be a subcontractor working on the street lighting system. And these things can happen in different order. We don't set that order. It's up to the contractor to be most efficient. So after that work is done, the first layer of asphalt will be installed. And then the contractor will raise the manhole castings and the gate valve iron up to the final surface. They'll place topsoil and sod the boulevard areas. And then the last thing that will be done will be the final paving of that asphalt layer. So that's the process. And during construction, access will be provided at all times. So if there's a storm sewer repair right in front of a driveway, or certainly down in the water main replacement area, that will be more difficult. So the contractor would provide notice if there is disruption to a driveway, and there might need to be some arrangements to park on a side street for a certain period of time. But the contractor will be working closely with the residents on that. And mail delivery will also continue either via the existing mailboxes or a temporary mailbox bank. The standard working hours are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 on Saturdays, unless it's an emergency. And then lastly, the city will have representatives out on site. So there'll be a resource for the property owners, and they'll also be making sure that the project gets built correctly. So this is the Cardinal Meadows area. Again, some spot repairs on that curb and gutter, total asphalt pavement replacement. The streetlights meet standards, but we'll be replacing the fixtures with LEDs. And then the potential median removal on that south end at 15th. Prairie Ridge off of Helmo, similar situation, the curb and gutter will have spot repairs, asphalt replaced, and those lights also meet current standards on Upper 26th, but on Helmo Avenue Bay, they will be upgraded to LED fixtures. Down near Tanner's Lake, in the water main replacement area, that's the big activity down there. New curb and gutter, new pavement. The streetlights, again, are overhead, so they will remain overhead. And there is some stormwater treatment required. We're proposing that on the north end of Horseshoe Park. And then there's the potential realignment of that Glenbrook intersection down at 7th Street. The commercial area up by Forefront. The work on High Point and Hopkins, just work in between the existing curb. New streetlight system with the city standard for the commercial areas, the taller pendant type lights. There's a new sidewalk proposed again on the west side of High Point. Then up on 36th Street, new concrete curb on the north side, new lighting there, pavement replacement, and the trail will also be replaced on the south side of the road. Then lastly, 56th Street up near Mills, work in between the existing curb and gutter, some spot repairs, pavement replacement, and new standard city commercial streetlights. These are just some cross sections. It shows down in the water main replacement area that we are proposing a 3-foot sand section, new curb and gutter. And then this is on 36th Street, kind of showing how we transition from the median area to the Willowbrook area, and then the trail replacement on the south side. So we started this process out by sharing some information in November. There were some videos that were posted and information shared, some letters that went out. The feasibility report, we did a study and a report that was presented to the council in December. These public hearings were ordered. If the project goes forward tonight, we will work on the construction plans and then bring those back to council on March 28th for approval and approval to bid. A contract could be awarded at the second meeting in April. And then we really want to just be ready to go around the beginning of May and have a contractor on board. So when the frost is out of the ground, they can start the construction. And then also we want to finish everything except for maybe some minor cleanup by about the end of August. So that is our schedule.
Thank you, Todd. The next part of the process here is to give the residents an opportunity to comment on the proposed improvements, and then for the council to deliberate on the improvements and determine if they want to order the project, and it does require a 4/5 vote. With that, I turn it back to the mayor.
Thank you, Brian. Before we open the public hearing, I'm going to open up to council members to see if there are any questions on the presentation for Brian or Todd.
Yeah, I did have one question. In the south, if we were to consider narrowing the street, would that change the boundary lines or the lines for the owners in that area? Or would the extra space for narrowing the street just remain an easement for the city?
Brian?
Yes, it would just be part of the right-of-way. There would be no vacation of the right-of-way.
Okay.
Jake, go ahead.
Yeah, one quick question. Trying to remember, what did we decide with the monument? Did we make it?
So I'm going to cover that in my ground rules for public hearing. I'll touch on that. We haven't decided anything, so.
Gotcha, I was gonna say, I didn't think we did.
It's like you're psychic or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Because I'm kind of reading the audience here a
Yeah.
little bit, so.
No, we will cover that here. Okay, so let's go ahead and move into the public hearing portion of the meeting. So I'm going to cover some housekeeping items, some ground rules. I'm going to welcome our city attorney to go through some of the legal stuff, and then we will get to public comment. So we're here tonight to consider improvements and assessments for the 2023 street improvement project. There will be 2 separate hearings held. The first hearing will review the 2023 street improvement project, and the second hearing will review the assessments and other financing related to the improvements. So essentially what that means is if you have questions about assessment, please hold those for the second public hearing. Notice of these hearings have been provided through mail and published in the city's official newspaper. I ask that the city clerk include the affidavit of publication of the hearing notices and the affidavit of mailing in the official record. In a second, I'm gonna bring Jim Thompson in, but before that, let's cover a few house ground rules. The first rule here in City Hall is we treat one another with respect. We might not always agree, and that's part of this process, but anybody up here having conversation and anybody at the podium, we ask that they treat one another with respect and courtesy. If you want to speak, everybody is welcome. Please come to the podium and state your name and address so it can be entered into the minutes. And we ask that comments follow the rules for our open forum, which tend to be around 3 minutes or so per comment. Unless there are any other questions from the council, I'm going to turn things over to City Attorney Jim Thompson, who will provide an outline of the procedures that will be followed. Any questions? Jim, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, good evening, everyone. As the mayor explained, there's 2 public hearings going on. The first one is whether they want to do the project or not, and that's your opportunity to come forward, say what you like about the project, what you don't like about the project, whether you think you need the project, whatever it is about the project itself, that's your opportunity to do that. That hearing will then be closed, and then the council will decide whether to act on that tonight. And there'll be a second hearing which deals with the financing, the special assessments on the property, and that's your opportunity to address any concerns you have about how the proposed financing would be of the special assessments. It is important at that hearing, you do have a right to challenge any special assessment gets adopted, but in order to do that, you have to file a written objection before the end of that hearing. So if you have any objection to the assessment, you want to do that before the end of that public hearing. You can just hand a note to the city clerk, just your name and address, and say, I object. It's not a formal thing, but it is something you need to do if you want to later challenge it in court. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but you can
Not a formal
open the
thing, but I
public
believe
hearing.
we have a forum. Yep, Sarah, our city clerk, says they are in the back of the room, but that's the assessment piece, so we'll get to that in a bit. To Councilmember Ingebretsen's point, one thing that came up in Mr. Blank's presentation, and I want to stress, is if the project is initiated and adopted tonight, that does not mean that the individual details of that project are finalized. We will take all public comment into consideration and use the time from now until March 28th when we finalize the details of the project and factor all of that in. So just because we take action here tonight doesn't mean that that is what we are doing. So I just want to lay that out there for everybody. Good? All right. All right. I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing for consideration of the 2023 street improvement project. I invite property owners to comment on the proposed improvements at this time. Please feel free to step forward.
Hi. Dave Cunningham. I'm at 1553 Hydrant Avenue Court. Just want to put an initial objection. I know I talked to you about removing that monument at 15th Street. Hello. Removing the monument. I think there's a lot, for starters, I think it's $1 million solution to a $10 problem. I think you're gonna spend a lot of money to take that monument out, and we don't need a left-hand turn lane. I've lived there for 23 years and never had to wait to turn out of that neighborhood. Aesthetically, it adds to the neighborhood, and I think you'd find that, most neighbors would say we should keep it. But like I said, it adds aesthetically to the neighborhood, and I think it does a lot more for the neighborhood than a left-hand turn lane's ever gonna do. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner, thanks for joining us.
Glenn Giacoletto, 1597 Hydrant Avenue, Court North. 2 things. I agree with Dave as far as with the monument. Also, though, I heard a comment about as far as there's no parking, though, but there's no signage that says that. So that can be part of a little bit of our issue. Secondly, I had a question as far as feasibility in Hydrant Avenue Court. We don't have any access to, we don't have any sewer drains or anything like that, storm drains. And I don't know if that's just not feasible where we're located, or if that's something that can be done to help with any drainage issues. I know we've chatted about that before, but are we just too far away maybe from access to storm drainage system. That's all I had to ask.
Thank you, Mr. Giacoletto. Are there any other comments? I should also add, typically, public hearings and open forums aren't a back and forth conversation, but we will take that question about drainage and incorporate that into our consideration as well. So thank you for raising that. Sir, please.
Hi, my name's Tom Nonna, 7888 Upper 16th Street. I guess just my concern about the monument, I guess I really don't have feelings either way if it stays or goes. I guess there, like he said, there's no problem making left-hand turns. I guess just maybe the other issue is the association was closed for the development, so as far as maintenance, I don't know if that would then fall to the city or remain with the development as far as the monument itself and, you know, landscaping there. And I guess the other issue with that is the parking, being that it is two narrow exits and entries. If the nearby houses there park on both sides of the streets, it really gets to be a problem with traffic movement. So I guess, I don't know if you could restrict parking on one side of the street or the other. Just, it all depends if the monument stays or not, but, so parking is kind of an issue there, going in and out, so. All right.
If it's a response to his question about maintenance, I'll ask you to discuss that privately. Yep. Are there any other individuals that would like to speak on the public improvement hearing? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back up to the dais for council deliberation. Council members, any questions for staff or things you just want to throw into the atmosphere? It's wide open.
I think it's great so many neighbors all came together. You guys obviously know each other very well, so it's good that you are sharing your voice here. One thing I did want to ask, and just for the public to know, so obviously it's expensive when water mains break, and that's a big concern. Is it in the hundreds of dollars to fix, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars?
Per break,
Yeah, per break.
it's not unusual for water main breaks to be close to $10,000. 5 to 10,000 is very common. Really depends upon how much traffic, how deep the water main is, but yeah,
It's always urgent, I'm sure.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
the most unopportune time, right?
Winter. Yeah. Any other comments from council members? If not, I will look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to waive reading and adopt Resolution 2023-09, ordering City Project R2023-01, 2023 street improvements.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
There's a motion and there's a second. Any conversation? I would just note that this project of this nature requires a 4/5 majority, which is a little tricky with only 4 members. So here's hoping. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ooh, we cleared it. All right, that is approved. Next, we will tackle the public hearing associated with the special assessments. Let's go back to my script. Ryan Bachmeyer, I guess it's going back to you.
Thank you, Mayor. So we are moving into the second hearing where we'll talk about how the project is being financed. We'll do a presentation. We'll talk about the particulars of the financing, have an opportunity to review the local tax distribution, where your property taxes currently are going, a definition of what special assessments are, and assessment policies. Then there'll be the opportunity for the affected property owners to testify before the council on their comments regarding the project financing. And then ultimately, the city does make the decision, city council makes the decision on whether to adopt or amend the assessment roll. If I could get the presentation back up on the board. Generally, this project does involve assessments to the property owners, reconstruction and overlay, that area where we're replacing, removing and replacing the pavement on a minimum standard street based on 2003 construction dollars. And so the neighborhoods of Cardinal Meadows, Prairie Ridge, Forefront, 36th Street, 54th Street, those areas fall under this one. We do have a uniform assessment rate, and that's $53 per foot for residential, $68 for multifamily, and $88 for commercial office-type properties. And again, that goes back to the cost to remove and replace asphalt on a minimum standard street based on 2003 construction dollars. That's how those rates are determined. Now, in those neighborhoods where we're removing and replacing the pavement and the curb and gutter on a minimum standard street, again, so this would affect the 9th Street, Gershwin, and Glenbrook Avenue area. Those assessment rates are $77 per residential, $92 for multifamily. And again, that's to remove and replace the asphalt and the curb and gutter on a wholesale basis on a minimum standard street. Now, the city is held to a standard in that the assessments cannot exceed the benefit to the property, and courts have determined the benefit to be the increase in market value to the property. We have worked with an assessor in the past, a third-party assessor who has reviewed our assessment rates and determined that they are defensible if we were to go to court. So it's been reviewed, not for this particular project, but on just past projects and our policies that we apply. They're uniformly applied. This particular project, in total, the 5 neighborhoods, is a little over $5 million. And the assessments that, to the benefiting properties are $1,100,000, or about 22% of the overall project. The city will be financing 78% of the balance of the project. With that, I'd ask that Jason Zimmerman come up and talk a little bit about what our current city property taxes pay for.
Mr. Zimmerman, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Thank you, Brian. So often with projects like this, the question arises about where do property tax dollars go and how are they allocated? So the visualization that's up on the screen here depicts or segments a $100 bill as a visualization of where the monthly allocation of the median valued residential property taxes go. So the estimation for 2023 on a $315,000 property is about $97.89 per month. Again, with the allocation predominantly with police, public works, fire, and then debt service, generally for the city's contributions to projects like this. And then the other administrative portions of city government on the lower end of the $100 bill. So the definition of special assessments. So the way the city of Oakdale processes assessments is it's a loan that's spread out over 10 years. The interest rate is 2% above the city's borrowing rate at the time of the bond sale, rounded to the nearest 0.25%. It proposed to begin October 15th, 2023, and prepayments would be accepted without interest up until that date. Partial prepayments up to $500 would be accepted, and then the first installment would be due with the first half property taxes in 2024. And then the remaining principal could be paid at any time, and then hardship deferrals are also available. And then this is a sample calculation of a parcel with a beginning balance of $4,240. Again, interest rates have risen in the last year, so this is just an example at a 5% borrowing rate for the city, or 7% to the assessed property. Again, the 10-year duration with the first half due in 2024, assuming equal contributions or payments, would run through 2023. Or 2033, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Brian.
I just have some maps that I'm presenting that kind of show the assessments to the properties in the different neighborhoods. And so just so you can kind of get a sense of what they are. Up at Mills Fleet Farm, they have I apologize, I can't even read it on the computer. I think it's around 50,000. And the Marcus Theater is a similar amount. This is the forefront and the Continental area. The assessments to the properties in this area range from $11,000 up to $117,000 per parcel. This is the Prairie Meadows. These assessments are $4,240. It's a typical 80-foot lot. And similarly, in Cardinal Meadows, the yellow is the $4,240. The school district does have frontage on the 2 dead-end streets, so they have an assessment, and then Hope Church has frontage along Hydrum and Upper 16th, so their assessment is $41,000. And then the Gershwin in Glenbrook and 9th Street area, the orange is the $6,160. For the typical single-family lot, there are some multifamily properties right off of 120, so they have a different assessment number. And then the school district also has 2 parcels with frontage on Glenbrook Avenue, so some assessments there. And then the other unique property is right off of 10th and Glenbrook. There is a parcel here that is of sufficient size that it could be subdivided, so it's the equivalent of 2 lots. And then they also own the vacant lot to the south. So this particular property has three assessments on that parcel. Earlier this evening, you saw how many streets we've reconstructed since 1992. This is just showing the number of parcels that have been assessed since 1992. It's close to 9,500 parcels, and just for purposes, the city of Oakdale has a little over 10,000 parcels in our community. So well over 90% of the properties in Oakdale have been assessed for street improvements following similar policies that we're discussing tonight. With that, I'd stand for any, turn it back to the mayor, and it's to the point where hear testimony from the residents, council deliberate, and then determine if they'll adopt the assessment roll.
Thank you, Brian. Same as last time, let's take a quick round for council questions on the presentation from either Jason or Brian. Are there any questions?
No questions?
All right, let's go ahead and continue on and open the public hearing for the proposed assessments. Same house rules and process as before. The one difference here is something that City Attorney Thompson mentioned before. If there are any residents wishing to appeal their assessment, they are required to submit the appeal in writing to the city clerk prior to me closing the assessment hearing. So when I close the public hearing, they have to be in by then, as outlined in the hearing notice. So I'm gonna go ahead and open the public hearing. If there are any residents who would like to speak on the special assessments or the financing piece of this, please feel free to step forward. If there are any residents wishing to appeal their assessment, the forms are in the back, and hand it to the city clerk. Any residents? Oh, come on, this is the fun part. Oh, we got one. We got one.
Gotta get someone to go first.
Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Kenny Larson. Address is 3505 High Point Drive. So part of the Larson family that owns the Forefront campus. When we bought it in 2016, it was in need of a lot of work. We were down, I think Guy Mason at the time was down to 3 tenants. During that time, we've put millions of dollars into that facility. Those 3 tenants, we now have over 35 businesses located there, including Boldman Mink, which is great to have such really quality tenants. We're super excited about that. During that time, we've asked for 0 financial consideration, only cooperation. As we've been developing the property, the vacant land around it, we started with industrial, and again, asked for no financial consideration, only cooperation. Later today, we're hearing on retail, and that's what we've asked. So for us with this assessment, we just ask for the level of investment that we've made to give consideration to a different calculation on the assessment. Thanks.
Are there any other residents or property owners that would like to speak during this public hearing? Please.
I'm Colin Rohrenbach. I'm at 7971 17th Street North. I guess that appeal process, I don't know how that actually works, but I have the house at the very east end. That house was built 6 years ago. So I don't know, how that all works. That was a vacant lot owned by Mr. Armstrong for years. I guess I'll fill out some paperwork. And also, I did forget, I'm in favor of the monument.
Thank you. Maybe staff can connect with that resident directly to discuss some of his questions. Jim?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. It is important, though, that he fills out the form and turns it in now, just so you preserve your right to appeal. And the next step in the appeal process would be to, if the council chooses to adopt the assessment, whether it's tonight or a future night, you do have to take quick action in court. You have to file an appeal within 30 days of that date. Not 30 days of tonight, unless the council adopts it tonight, but you do have to submit it in writing tonight. Thank you.
And Jim, I would just add something you said I want to accentuate there. By filling out the form, you're just preserving your right to an appeal. You can drop it at any point if you don't want to go through the process, but you have to open this door if you want to explore it later. Is that correct, Jim?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any other residents who would like to speak on this public hearing? Is anybody filling out a form that would like a little more time?
2 people?
Okay, we'll give it a second. Yeah.
You got to come.
Fill out the form.
Jan, could you come step up to the podium? Yeah.
Jan Cunningham, and I'm at 1553 Hydrum Avenue, Court North. My husband already spoke, but I just want to make sure, filling out this form to give to the city clerk, do we have to fill that out if we're talking about the monument area too? No.
No, just
Okay.
your property special assessment.
And if we fill that out and we decide we don't have any,
No harm, no foul, right, Jen?
okay. But we do have a few minutes just to hurry up and fill that out, right?
Jim, are we okay?
I think we can acknowledge the three property owners that are going to fill it out, and as long as they get it over there,
We're good.
we're good.
So is there an actual form?
Yeah.
There is, yeah. We can go ahead and keep moving. Thanks, Jim. All righty. Anybody else that would like to speak on the proposed special assessments? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back up to the dais for council deliberations. Council members, any questions? No. Well, I do have a note here that I'm going to make a motion to continue action on Resolution 2023-01 until the February 14th City Council meeting. I think staff needs to make a small tweak to the special assessment funding policy, correct?
Yes.
All right. I made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any conversation or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And that is continued on to the February 14th City Council meeting. Hey, Valentine's Day. How romantic. All righty. Next up, we have another public hearing on the Take 5 Oakdale Center 3rd Edition. I believe we will start with a staff presentation. City Planner Luke McClanahan, thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Mayor and
Take it
Council.
away.
Sorry, bear with me just one moment while I bring up the presentation here. Okay. If we can get that up on the screen?
Do you want over there?
Yes, I think we're good now.
Okay.
Yep, we're good.
That'd be the present. She's got it.
Yep. Okay, thank you. So the location of this request is on the north side of 10th Street. It's immediately west of the Speedway and west of Helmo Avenue. This is a vacant parcel consisting of 1.5 acres. And the purpose of this request tonight is to create 2 commercial lots. And development is being proposed on just the east lot for an oil change business. The west lot will be developed at a future time, and this site is zoned as C2 community commercial. Here's a look at the plat. The site will utilize the existing access, so there's an access and drive to the Speedway. It will The site will use that access for the development. Both lots are approximately 3/4 of an acre each, and there is an existing drainage and utility easement, as you can see on the west side, because there's an outlot that's owned by the city that contains wetland. Here is a look at the actual site plan. Again, only the east lot is being developed at this time. The west lot will have to go through the site plan process when it is ready to be developed. So in terms of circulation, how this oil change business will work, so traffic will turn right off 10th Street, heading north, loop around, and then there will be 3 service bays for the oil change stalls, and then there is a bypass in case a car needs to go around, or for EMS purposes as well. You have that. There is 10 parking spaces on the north side of this site. Stormwater will be handled through a basin on the west lot there. Washington County, they did review this because the site fronts 10th Street, and they recommend that the developer pay for striping of a right turn lane off 10th Street, and additional permits and approvals will be required through the county for any right-of-way work and access for the site. The city is also recommending that the developer work with Washington County to ensure that this segment of the trail system on the north side of 10th Street is ADA compliant. So here's a look at the rendering of this oil change business. The exterior materials consist mostly of brick, which complies with our ordinance design standards. Signage for this property will need to comply with our signage standards. And in closing here, staff recommends approval of both the preliminary and final plat, as well as the site plan, subject to certain conditions found in the resolutions in the packets. And I will briefly summarize those conditions. First is execution of a development agreement. Next, a developer receive approvals from the city engineer, fire department, Washington County, and Watershed District. Satisfaction of park dedication, compliance with the city attorney's plat opinion, submission of an updated photometric plan that complies with ordinance standards, and finally, the developer pay for striping of a right turn lane off 10th Street. And just a reminder, this is a public hearing, but otherwise, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Council members, any questions right off the bat for Luke?
I have a question related to disposal of the oil. Have they addressed, I'm sure they have, right? Because it's
Yes.
what they do for a living, but what does that look like as far as disposal and containment and things like that?
Yeah, that's all regulated by the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, so there's state regulations. I'm not as familiar with the federal regulations, but that's all handled at the state level. The city itself doesn't have any particular regulations about that, but that's state requirements.
Else? Well, we are required to hold a public hearing on this, so let me go ahead and open the public hearing. Anybody that wishes to speak on this proposed development is welcome to join us at the podium. Same rules apply. Please state your name and address for the record and share any thoughts you may have with us. Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back up to the dais for council discussion. Council members, anything? Hearing none, let's go ahead and take both of these one at a time. Could I have a motion on the first one?
I will make a motion to waive reading and adopt Resolution 2312, approving the preliminary and final plat for Oakdale Center 3rd Edition with conditions included in the attached resolution.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any conversation? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And that passes. Next motion. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion and waive reading and adopt Resolution 2023-13, approving the site plan for Take 5 Oakdale with conditions included in the attached resolution.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any conversation? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? And that is adopted as well. Thank you. We are rolling right along. Let's continue things with open forum. Open forum is the time for residents joining us to share anything on their mind. Please feel free to step up to the podium, same rules as the public hearings. State your name and address for the record, and roughly 3 minutes or so, share with us what's on your mind. Anybody? Nope. No? Okay. We're gonna keep moving. Consensus motions. Nope. Consensus motions, we have A through H in front of us tonight. Are there any that individual council members would like to pull for individual consideration? Going once, going twice? No? Okay. I will look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve consensus items A through H as presented.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any conversation? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And those are approved. Next up, we have advisory boards and commissions. Economic Development Commission, there was no meeting. Councilmember Olson is the liaison. I always get nervous when the lawyer starts walking behind me. You know? The Environmental Management Commission, I'm the liaison for that group. There was no meeting there. Planning, Councilmember Ingebrigtsen, no meeting there. Parks and Rec, Councilmember Morcom, no meeting there. And finally, the Tree Board, I am temporarily filling in as liaison until we get our 5th chair filled. They did meet on January 17th. The big item on their agenda was talking about their spring planting projects. So it sounds like they are honing in on a pretty robust tree planting effort along 40th Street, just east of Highway 120. So they will be working on that as well as planning the Arbor Day tree giveaway celebration. So they are a very busy group. Award a bid, we have none from staff tonight. Staff reports, community development. Luke, are you going to take us through that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So if I can bring the screen up again. This is the Willowbrook 8th Edition Final Plat, the next phase of Willowbrook. The location of this site is, the majority of the acreage is on the north side of 40th Street, but just a small portion is on the south side as well. It's approximately 85 acres in total, but a good portion of it will be reserved for as 2 outlots for future development. The purpose here is to create 37 lots for single-family development. So here's a look at what the actual plat looks like. Features lower density residential development than previous phases of Willowbrook. As part of this development, Helmo Avenue will be extended north from 40th Street, and staff is recommending that Helmo be extended all the way to the Olson Lake Estates 3rd Edition property to the north for improved connectivity and to address some public safety concerns. Staff is also recommending that the sidewalk, the proposed sidewalk, be relocated from the east side of Helmo to the west side to seamlessly connect to the neighborhood to the north with the existing sidewalk system there. The city will be responsible for constructing certain trails and maintaining open space for this development in accordance with the master PUD agreement for Willowbrook. The developer is also working on a couple vacations related to this development for a small portion of Helmo Avenue, and also an existing water line easement through this property that is no longer needed, just some items that need to be cleaned up as part of the platting process. There's also an update for a 20-foot wide easement for Lumen that just needs to be cleaned up here as part of the platting process. But staff finds that this final plat substantially conforms to the approved preliminary plat for Willowbrook, subject to certain conditions found in the resolution. I will just summarize those conditions: execution of a development agreement, approval of construction plans by the city engineer, permits and approvals obtained from outside agencies, satisfaction of park dedication requirements, compliance with the city attorney's plat opinion. The developer construct an extension of Helmo Avenue North to connect this subdivision to Olson Lake Estates 3rd Edition. 20-foot wide easement be included for Lumen, relocate the sidewalk from the east side to the west side of Helmo Avenue, and finally, the developer obtain approvals for necessary vacations. I would like to note that the developer is here in attendance, but otherwise staff is happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Luke. Council members, any questions for staff or the developer? No? No. All righty. Hard to believe we're on the 8th edition for Willowbrook. With that, I will entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to waive reading and adopt Resolution 2023-11, approving the final plat for Willowbrook 8th Edition with conditions as outlined.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any conversation? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? And that plat is approved. You want to keep going, Luke?
Sure. Oh, okay, so the next item.
you.
Next item is a continuation from the last council meeting, so this is a site plan. It's actually site plan option 2 for the forefront commercial retail site, and I do have an image here. So just a reminder, the location of the site is on the north side of 34th Street, located in the forefront campus. It's a vacant 8.5 acre parcel. So at the last council meeting, recall that site plan option 1 was approved, and that features a grocery store and other commercial uses. So this site plan option 2 was deferred due to concerns about the proposed car wash. And following that meeting, the developer did revise the site plan to remove the car wash. And here's a look at that revised plan. This is, again, the alternate plan in the event that the other site plan, which featured the grocery store, is not pursued, if the deal with the grocery store does not pan out. In place of the car wash that was previously being proposed is just a more general commercial building, approximately 15,000 square feet. Although the use of this building has not yet been determined, the developer will need to ensure that parking requirements are satisfied for this use. That's one of the staff's major concerns here, is just being able to ensure that the use does comply with our off-street parking requirements. So staff recommends approval of this site plan subject to the conditions in the resolution, and the conditions are the same as the previous site plan, or I should say site plan option 1, with just one added condition. And that is that the developer update the northwest building here and its parking area as necessary to ensure compliance with the city's off-street parking requirements. The developer is here, and otherwise staff is happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Luke. Council members, any questions for Luke or the developer? Seen this before, just a small change. Looking good. Okay, I will entertain a motion.
I will make a motion to waive reading and adopt Resolution 2023-06, approving a revised site plan option 2 for the forefront commercial retail property with conditions included in the attached resolution.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any final thoughts? Nope. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that is adopted as well. Oh, we're just rolling right along. City Attorney Jim Thompson, you're up next. Anything?
Mayor and council, nothing specific to report, but happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions for Mr. Thompson? No. Administrator's report. Welcome, Ms. Volkers.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I do have one item I'd ask, I mentioned it earlier, to be added to the agenda. We will upload an RCA and a resolution about local option sales tax and preserving our right at the legislature to have the discussion about considering, ways to adjust for inflation in the future. We're not committing to anything. Any action would be a future action, but what the resolution does in front of you is it just preserves our right to have that discussion with the legislature. The motion I'm recommending, and again, I will upload this all to the website after the council meeting tonight, is to waive reading and adopt Resolution 2023-14, which is new, but it amends the old Resolution 2022-86 that we previously approved on this. So, and it is regarding the local option use and sales tax and the 2 projects, and the fact that inflation is affecting our projects significantly. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Anybody have any questions? No? Since I have it in front of me, I'll go ahead and make the motion to waive reading and adopt resolution number 2023-14, amending City Resolution 2022-86 relating to the local sales and use tax. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions, comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that resolution is adopted.
Thank you.
Chris, anything else?
No,
All righty, council presentations. Susie, would you like to go first?
Nothing for me.
Nothing. Councilmember Ingebrigtsen.
Nothing.
Mr. Morcom.
Nothing at this time.
All righty, it's just me. I have three. Earlier today, we attended a groundbreaking ceremony for the Espen Residences, a 190-unit apartment property by Roars Development. This is located in the Willowbrook development, just south of 40th Street, east of 694. The developer anticipates an opening of spring 2024. Also included in this development are townhomes that will be added at a future second phase. Councilmember Morcom and I were out there for the groundbreaking today. It is amazing how fast they're moving dirt. They have equipment ready to roll, and in speaking with the developer, they are very excited to be here in Oakdale. So we welcome them and we wish them well with their development. This Friday, January 27th at 10 a.m., there is a ribbon cutting at Central Park, Oakdale, located at 3115 Hadley Avenue North. It's right next to Menards, just south of there. This is a new local business offering a, quote, whole dog care approach to doggy daycare, boarding, all that fun stuff. And we look forward to welcoming them to the city of Oakdale. I've spoken with them a few times at chamber meetings, and they are also very excited to be here in Oakdale. So welcome to Central Park. Finally, we have two indoor markets next month at the Discovery Center, Saturday, February 4th and Saturday, February 18th, both from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Discovery Center, was at 4444 Hadley. They'll feature over 20 local vendors offering a variety of items, including baked and canned goods, sweet treats, salsas, jewelry, essential oils, and more. So please join us at the Discovery Center for those indoor markets. Shop local. We always appreciate the vendors that are there selling their crafts and handmade goods. So that's all I got. Claims, gotta pay the bills. Are there any questions on the claims for the period January 11th, 2023 to January 24th, 2023? No questions? Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve claims as presented.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any conversation? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? And the bills are paid. I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed?
Oh, sorry, aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you and have a good night.